Welcome back to another episode of Multifamily AP 360 and our next guest, John Weiskopf from Blue Eye Capital. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. A little bit about John. John, the dynamic CEO and founder of Blue Eye Capital, is on a mission to impact the world on building at a time. With over 18 years of expertise in commercial real estate and a specialization in energy performance and sustainable buildings, John's legacy includes leading the charge on over 300 high-performance spaces worldwide as a former head of engineering for Apple Inc. Retail Real Estate Group. Today, his firm manages 228 units valued at over 15 million, embodying his vision of combining profits with purpose. So with that, John, you want to add anything to your background?
Yeah, let's see. I started in real estate 20 years ago. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. And for the first 18 years of my real estate career, I never thought about owning anything for some reason. And so I found myself missing or wondering what more was out there rather than building Apple stores and building office buildings, and what led me to where we are today.
Awesome. Share me like now working with and moving towards real estate. What skills you're translated from working in IT company, IT engineering company to real estate space?
Sure. So for Apple, I was head of engineering for the retail real estate development program. Any store that Apple built in the last 9 years was under my guise and my expertise. So I think it was actually a pretty direct translation, taking my engineering, my building skills, facilities management skills, and trying to find ways to improve multifamily ownership. I'm a systems guy. I'm a asset person. So when I say the word asset management, I'm talking about the actual asset. I think a lot of folks talk about money when they talk about asset management. I'm talking about the buildings, the properties that people are investing in. And how do I try to bring my expertise and all that I've done to optimize ownership for the long term?
Yeah. So absolutely we'll deep dive into asset management side later part. So from mechanical engineering to working in Apple and also moving towards apartment syndications. So why? What is the reason?
Why? Became a dad about 4.5 years ago. I was overworked. I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, and I thought I had found success. And the more I worked, or the more I thought I was succeeding, the more work that got thrown on top of me and the more pressure. And it was just a life that wasn't moving me anywhere. It was unfulfilling. And I was starting to actually hate engineering, which has been my passion since I was a little boy. It took me a couple of years to really figure it out. I had to took a leave of absence from Apple for a few months and to really take a step back and figure out what the next chapter of my life was going to be. And I stumbled upon a free multifamily investing course or something on Instagram. I forget where it was exactly. And I went and I was like, hey, hang on a second. I've been doing real estate forever. I know these buildings. This is easy, or this can be easy. It's not easy, but maybe convince myself it was going to be. And for me, there's a lot of individuals out there that are left behind. I focus a lot on the affordable housing, lower income demographic in the United States, so Class C type properties. And I just see a big hole in how those buildings are treated, how those buildings are maintained, and what that ramification is to the individuals' lives that live there. And something I want to try to change.
Absolutely. So let's focus on that. So it's called like impact investing. And so expand on that. Why that particular area? How exactly you guys are helping that specific niche?
Sure. So impact investing, also called double bottom line in the more financial sense or more technical term, but it's really the approach of having an intention to achieve environmental and social outcomes alongside financial returns. A lot of people do value add. I consider value add putting lipstick on a pig in many cases, painting, upgrades, but is that really providing value to the property? It does on the surface, and it's a valuable and proven strategy. I like to look longer term. If you consider work that you're going to do on a property today, how is that work going to influence that property's value, not 5 years down the line, but 10, maybe 15? And how does that work that you do actually help the people that live there? At the end of the day, any one of us that owns a rental property, the people that live there are the reason why we have that property and are profitable. Yes, maybe we picked the right market. Yes, maybe we picked the right building in the right location, the right neighborhood, but it's the people that make our business. And so I consider myself a more people first focused kind of operator out there. So happy to give some examples, things like solar panels. I think solar panels are greatly misunderstood value out there. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, they don't pay back in 5 years. But when they pay back in 7 to 10, it's 100% profit. I think the typical value add operator is doing rubs, right? They're charging their tenants just for the same power that the utility is charging them. Great. But that's zero. There's no profit made on that. It's zero. If I put solar on my property, I become the power company. Now I've turned an expense to 100% income. And as utility rates rise year over year, which they do, not just from inflation, but from aging infrastructure in our country, my solar panels become more and more profitable year in year. And not only do they become more and more profitable for me and my investors, but they become more beneficial to my residents who I can control how much I charge them for power. I could charge them less. And so that's where the impact comes in, is how are you doing more with the same amount of input in?
So absolutely, you touched very good point. Sustainable energy and implementing through solar panels, right? So share me how exactly you guys implementing panel stuff. So what kind of properties and which are any use, and also like some challenges implementing solar panel stuff.
Sure. So I just want to take a step back for a second and say all of this stuff is proven out there, right? This is just building systems being added onto buildings. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm reinventing how things are applied. Solar can work on any property, but doesn't work for every property. You have to be in a facility, you have to be in a location, where utility rates are above average. Places where it's cheap, your payback is longer. And so it doesn't always become as viable for investors. I think you have to, as an investor, the biggest pitfall is hold times. If you look at the average investment today of 3 to 5 year holds, you'll never pay a solar back in that time period. Even with tax credits from the government that we go after and use, it's not feasible. But I want people to think about, when you put those on, what intrinsic value are you adding to that property that will be there for 20 to 30 years? And most people look at and do their calculations on return on investment on today's dollars without considering cost escalations and other things over time that make that investment and that decision today better. Flat roofs, sloped roofs, you need roofs. We try not to put things on grade because it's wasting land. And that land can be used for other things, especially with a need for housing these days. We need all the land that we can get. But a lot of it is cost, right? You have to be willing to put that investment in to make money back.
Yeah. So that means, are you planning to keep your properties for 20, 30 years, or what exactly your strategy?
We look for a 10-year holds at least.
Yeah. So how exactly can, get that benefits of implementing solar panel or sustainable energy systems?
So repeat the question.
So how exactly, as an investor, how exactly you're benefiting from it?
How are they better? Sure. First is, my property is more valuable as I improve my income stream. So once the solar system is paid off, and most of the time we finance for 30 years, and the cost of utilities that we're charging our residents is paying our finance charges. And so there's really not much out of pocket for us to do. Once that system is paid back in 10 years, as I mentioned before, now it's full income, right? Our maintenance is included within the solar panels that we purchase. So there's long-term deals. We usually finance for about 30 years, hoping to pay back in about 10. So it's a very good cash reward. And the intrinsic value for investors is resiliency over long-term. So I'll give you an example. The average US inflation and increase in utility rates year over year is around 2 to 3%. One of my favorite markets is Tulsa, Oklahoma. And 2023, is it 22 or 23? Tulsa's utilities went up 20%. So if you can imagine the cost burden and again, I'm focused on lower income individuals, right? In Class C property. So A 20% increase in utilities is going to impact the rent that you can charge those tenants. You can't pay for it all. Money doesn't just come, doesn't come off of trees, right? So by creating more resiliency and how we control our costs, it helps us on the expense side, it helps our residents on the income side, right? And what they owe us, and how can we differentiate ourselves from the property next door. And that's really the value that investors are getting.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
So how long it will take to implement, a solar panel system, and when exactly you will decide whether you will go for, this kind of systems?
Sure. It really depends on the size. They go in pretty quick. Depending on the property, we have a 64 unit out in Louisville, Kentucky that we are under evaluation. We're doing our due diligence for solar panels now and looking at our finance options to do that property. And we need some income boost there. And so we're looking at all of our options. That process there, 64 units, it is a total of, I think it's 11 buildings total. It'll take us about 2 weeks to do that. Once we get the start to go, installation is only about 2 weeks.
So yeah. So how much it will cost is based on building wise or number of units? How exactly it will cost?
It really depends on the installation type, where we're going, and size. It gets cheaper as you do more, right? There's a minimum cost for infrastructure components that take a big chunk. So a small building, a 10 unit property, it's going to be quite costly as you keep going up. That our 64 unit in Louisville, Kentucky was 30-year finance that would have cost us $1.3 million over 30 years.
Yeah, it's a good amount, right? So
yeah, this isn't small money. It's a low income property. It's a LIHTC property. And so we have the ability to get almost 60 federal tax credits for that. They're depreciating assets, right? So we pay less. So at the end of the day, we're paying less than 50% of that 1.3 million if we go forward.
So from where you will get that financing, like 1.3 million?
We finance it right through the solar company. And then we use our operating expenses, so the charging back of power, to pay those finance charges on a monthly basis.
Got it. Sure. So any other sustainable energy strategies or any other systems you guys implementing as part of your, communities?
Yeah, one of my favorite is lighting. And I think lighting is one of the most misunderstood components of a home. And what I mean by that is the advent of LEDs has spurred lighting retrofits and all of that stuff everywhere, and for low cost and high efficiency. And it's true. But when people think about LEDs, they think about these bright white lights that you see everywhere. If you ever fly on a plane and you're flying overhead in yellow and white lights, it's because everybody's upgraded to these white lights. Those might be great for viewing on the street. They're horrible for your home. White light or bright light over 4,000 kelvins is meant to mimic the sun. So if you have that light in your home at night while you're trying to rest, your brain is thinking that it's daytime. So we like to look at these things like details. There's no cost, but we like warm light, right? Things that are more incandescent, like a candle, that actually tells the brain that it's nighttime and that you need to start thinking about sleep and you start unwinding. And these things can have massive impacts on a person's health, from headaches and lack of sleep. So sometimes it's nothing major. Sometimes it's something just really tiny that does it. Plants. We recommend to all of our residents to put certain plants. English ivy is one of the best plants for removing toxins in the air naturally. So it's these small little $5 plants that can do monstrous impact. And that's really where the intention of impact investing comes from. Right? Our intention to help people and intention to do more makes us think differently about what we're going to do.
Awesome. Any other strategies or any other systems?
HVAC will always be your number one energy consumer in any building, especially when you move south. When the heat, today's world with climate changing so quickly, HVAC is a big one, but it's also a high expense, an operating expense. These old systems have refrigerant that is quite expensive these days. I have one property, we're about to replace about 80% of our HVAC units. And there's good financing for that. There's programs called PACE programming, these energy efficiency finance programs that offer rates in around 3 to 4% interest. So you just have to know where to go find these things. You have to know that they're available. And you don't need to have all the capital ready to do it. You can finance these things that gets tacked onto your tax bill, because they're usually supported by local governments or state government programs. And so it's there. You just have to go find it.
Yeah, definitely. Awareness about these programs and then implement fitting into your business plan.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
awesome. Awesome. So share me a little bit more about your portfolio, which direction you're going next 12 to 24 months.
Sure. So today I have 3 properties. One in Louisville, Kentucky. That's a 64 unit low income tax credit property. I have a 72 unit property, Class C, in Leavenworth, Kansas, and a 92 unit Class C property in Lubbock, Texas. All of them doing good, cash flowing today. The low income housing property was a rough one. We've had to renovate how many of those units? 40 of the 64 units were almost complete renovations. People don't like when you evict them, even though they haven't paid. But where am I going forward? We believe that the affordability crisis is going to get worse and worse year over year. And when we talk about making an investment with investor money today and where we would be with that money and that investment in 5-10 years, we try to think about what asset class is going to be the most protected against income fluctuations and affordability fluctuations. And for us, that's mobile homes. So we are under contract for a mobile home park in Lubbock, Texas. I've recently just launched a fund with a friend and partner of mine, an impact fund, and that is a 20-year fund. And so our goal is to buy multiple mobile home parks within that fund over the years through cash out refinance events and build a portfolio and a cash flow king for our investors. But I believe mobile homes and tiny homes and things like that should be on every single investor's radar moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So would you share any best real estate investing experience so far?
My best experience. But can I share my worst?
Yeah, absolutely. Next.
I just got an email today. I got one this morning. 3 years ago, I invested on Yield Street, and I invested in a multifamily property out in North Carolina. And today I just found out that the property is moving to foreclosure. And why I want to highlight it is there because Yield Street gave a very detailed, and they've been giving updates all along the way. So it didn't just fall on my lap that it's foreclosing. But what was very sad and I think troubling for me as an operator and somebody that's been entrusted with other people's money is Yield Street has, as an owner and partner investor in it, has provided cash flow injections to keep the property alive. The sponsor was doing so until 2 months ago, and the sponsor said, I'm not putting any more money into it. And so that sponsor has basically killed the value and investors' money for every single person. But more so, it was a small investment for me. I think it was $25,000. Yes, it's some money. It's not going to kill me. I'm more upset about the people that live at that property. It's I think 280 unit property. So what's happening to those individuals? And so I guess my advice for individuals that are investing is know who you're investing with. What are the values of that individual? Because yes, your money's on the line from a risk perspective, but you have people's lives on the line. You have people's homes on the line. And in certain people and certain demographics and certain income levels, they can't just go find a new place. They don't just have the ability to get up and move. And my best advice is dig more. I guess I trusted Yield Street and their due diligence a little bit too much in terms of who the main sponsor was.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, not so awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. So any personal habits that are helping you to be successful, John?
I wake up at 3:30 every morning. I'm a morning person. A lot of people think I'm crazy. My wife does, for one. But I wake up and every morning, the first thing I do is work out. That gives me energy for the day, wakes me up. And then I read. Right now, I am reading Extreme Ownership and I've had that book on my bookshelf for a while and been meaning to read it. And I've read many others out there like it, but I think the premise of it is stop making excuses for yourself. Excuses get you nowhere. They're just complaints. And to anybody else that's sitting out there that feels that they can't get ahead or they can't do something, Instead of wasting your energy on complaining about it, figure out what you can do. Don't set your goals too high. When I first started my own business, I had some pretty lofty goals and I failed quite miserably. And they were internal goals. They weren't losing people's money here. But when I started to break those goals down into more measurable and achievable steps, getting to my goals became much, much easier and faster. So that would probably be my number one advice is, and keep checking back and don't be afraid to fail. A couple months ago, I sent an email out to my investors from my contact list and I had the wrong link. So I sent another email out, forgot to put the date in for something. 3 emails later and all these mistakes, I feel like an idiot. And then the next day, I think I get an email from somebody from another big company, somebody else doing something, trying to sell me something. And they had the same thing. I got 3 emails from them. It happens. Learn from it, move on. Don't let it happen again.
Great points. Thank you. So
Yeah.
how can listeners can connect with you, John?
LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. That's where you'll find me. That's where you'll find everything about me, both personally and business-wise. I like to be very transparent with who I am and my life and my story and the trials and tribulations that I think everybody goes through. You'll find me on LinkedIn and then my website, www.blueeyedcapital.com. If you're interested in what we do and interested in making a difference in this world while building wealth for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much, John. Thank you for bringing very important, impactful concept, sustainable energy through solar panels and other systems, right? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.